You're basically part of how the rest of the world sees Taiwan. Has there ever been like any news that you'd be like, okay, this we cannot publish, this is like terrifying?
You know, obviously I'm very pro-Taiwan, and so when you write the news, you get to a point where you actually have to like hold back and be like, nah, okay, I won't say that. I'll use a softer word here. When I was in high school, I was a punk kid, like caused a little bit of trouble, made my parents angry. So we had a discussion, and they were like, what can we do? Like, you know,
how do we punish him? We send him to Taichung. Today we're here in the heart of Taiwan News, where we are talking with one of the reporters, Duncan.
Hey everybody.
Who is Duncan, and why is he in Taiwan?
Originally from Kentucky in the US.
The fried chicken capital of the world?
It is indeed, yes. The first KFC is about 45 minutes from my house, yeah.
Okay.
Got a nice museum if you're interested. I've lived in Taiwan about 10 and a half years total. Was first in Taichung from 2009 to 2011. Program for newly graduated students called Princeton in Asia. Teaching English half the day and studying Chinese half the day at Zhongxiao University in Taichung.
Oh wow, yeah. So your first visit to Asia was Taichung?
I was an exchange student to Japan in high school when I was 16 years old.
Okay,
yeah, so
high school, that's very early.
When I was in high school, I was a punk kid, like caused a little bit of trouble, made my parents angry. So we had a discussion, and they were like, what can we do? Like, you know,
how do we punish him? We sent him to Taichung. Was that?
Japan, yeah. They were like, it was like, you need to get your life together. It was like, you want like military school? Well, I want to go to Japan. And they were like, well, okay, all right, we'll see what we can do. And yeah, and I ended up in Japan for a year.
高校生16歳の時に日本に交換留学して日本語を勉強しました。
So yeah, I was really into Japan at first. Foreign languages, learning Japanese, got into Asian history. Graduated, I applied to that program, PIA, Princeton in Asia, and so they offered me the job in Taiwan. And I'd been studying a little Chinese, so I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll go to Taiwan for a little while, and then I'll go back to Japan. And yeah.
10 and a half years later, you're still waiting.
But I did eventually go to South Korea, Academy of Korean Studies. In Korea for 3 years.
저는 대한민국에서 공부해 본 적에 있어서 석사 학위를 받았습니다.
And then I came back to live in Taipei in 2014. Yeah, and I've been in Taipei ever since. I also did another master's degree at NTNU.
Yeah! 是的,是的. So what made you come back then to Taipei or Taiwan after Korea?
It's a good question. Yeah, actually...
I've been thinking this myself every day for the past 7 years.
My experience with Taiwanese people in Taichung and how I was getting along in South Korea. I was there for about a year, and I knew I wanted to go back to Taiwan. I was like, okay, I want to finish my school program, but I already had this kind of yearning to go back to Taiwan, just because it's hard to say. I think for it could just be me personally, but I think the pace of life and sort of the friendly nature of people in Taiwan, the convenience, everything just, it's like, it's such a welcoming place, at least for someone I think of my temperament and sort of attitude, yeah, so.
It kind of sounded like you needed the Korean winters to cool down a little bit though.
That's true, actually, that's a very good point. No, when I left Taichung in 2011, like I was still at like the height of my youth, and you know, party days, let's go to the clubs and get wild.
One of my questions is usually like, how is your life different compared to like the US, in your case Korea and Taiwan?
Living with a host family, I saw Westerners maybe like once every month or two, you know, just like in passing.
That was the same for me, like when I first came to Taiwan, like 11 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like if I saw one other foreigner, like once per week, I was like, oh my god, it's a foreigner! look, there's a foreigner over there.
Were you in like a smaller village, or were you in
No, so I was up in like Shilin, like the first time.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, once per week we would go down to like Ximen, because that's where my Taiwanese classmates would like drag me to like a KTV or something. People would come up and like shake your hand. And it's like, wow, welcome to Taiwan. If I saw another foreigner, I would like freak out. We were 3 foreigners in my entire school.
Yeah.
And like entire Shilin, I feel. So yeah, no, I definitely share your mindset there.
But yeah, if you go out to like a small, even just to like New Taipei area, you know, a little
you cross
kid,
the bridge, and
yeah,
people
a little
are like,
kid will be like, yeah. Yeah, it definitely still happens occasionally. I also do a weekly podcast on what's the Ivy Bar channel. If you're an English language learner, if you're a Taiwanese student, we have a podcast called 蜘蛛英文怎么说. So every week we post a new episode, and it's just very simple Chinese expressions or Taiwanese expressions that we explain in English and tell people how they would say that in English.
Now another loop back to like the Taichung days when you're like.
I don't really expect that I'll ever be a classroom teacher again, but I do like learning languages, and I don't mind explaining English or talking about English.
For someone from Kentucky or other parts of the States, maybe their parents are watching. Like, yes, we want to send our kid half around the world too. What would you say would be the differences between like Korea, Japan, and Taiwan? Who should go to which country?
I would say it really does depend on the individual's goals. If you're still a teen and you're really eager to learn a foreign language, then Japan or Korea might be a good choice for you. If you're already in your late 20s and you're looking for a place to work and to enjoy your daily life, I think Taiwan is definitely the most. As far as cultural barriers, I think for the average American, Taiwan is a lot more accessible than Japan or Korea, and that also has a lot to do with the culture and the people. Taiwanese people generally are more open and more willing to be honest and engaging with a foreigner that they meet the first time. It takes a lot more work, a lot more interaction to really get to know a Japanese person or a Korean person.
If someone has already made up their mind, and let's say that they want to move to Taiwan for long term, what is something that an advice you would give them before moving, or something that you wish that you would have known before coming here? One
of my biggest problems in Taiwan is food. I've been here so long and I still don't I'm still not super familiar with all the different Taiwanese foods available. I mean, I've learned a lot in my time here, but if you really want to come to Taiwan and live here for a while, study your food vocabulary. Learn the names of dishes and just learn what you can about the food, because it'll help you out a lot.
Yeah. I'm still to the point where I'm I only know the name of the dishes that I like.
Right, same. I've got a list of 10-ish things. If someone asks, my girlfriend asks, what do you want to eat tonight? And I'm like, well,
number 8.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you can see we're not in my studio today. We are in another studio in the middle of Taiwan News.
Yes.
Because you are a reporter for Taiwan News.
Yes, I am.
First of all, everyone who's watching this should know that I love Taiwan News. And as a foreigner in Taiwan, it is literally your number one news source.
That's very nice. Very nice of you to say.
As you also might know, that previously, I think 2 years ago during COVID, I started to cover other news as well, both international news about Taiwan abroad, but of course, to a high extent, Taiwan news specifically to share with my audience that is also outside of Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very honored that I received an invitation to come here. Has there ever been any news that you'd be okay, this we cannot publish, this is terrifying?
Definitely sensitive topics, and there's always, banter in the newsroom about, what we should say, how we should package something. I definitely got a more informed sort of view of the political situation in Taiwan, and it is kind of a wild place, honestly. The political landscape here is very, very unique, but very, very interesting. There's always a lot to learn, and most foreigners outside of Taiwan, if they know Taiwan at all, then it's in the context of the interactions with China.
I still have a lot of friends back home in Sweden. They would just randomly text me in the middle of the night, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they would be like, "I saw that there was an earthquake. I saw that you guys having a war with China." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just opening my door and then
I'm just making breakfast."
Exactly. And I'm
coffee,
still, my biggest annoyance is the scooters on the street. That's to me the most dangerous thing about living here in Taiwan.
I wasn't even thinking about the driving. That's a whole other mess. Yeah.
I don't really do news. I'm not gonna compare myself with Taiwan News. But for me, I also create content on a regular basis. And my brain is on 24/7. And I see something. I'm like, okay, how do I make a YouTube video out of this situation?
I saw your recent video on the election. It's good. It's nice.
You're basically part of how the rest of the world sees Taiwan.
A small part, a little tiny little piece.
You're a small part of a very important job.
At first, it was very difficult for me to keep that neutral tone. You know, obviously I'm very pro-Taiwan, and so when you write the news, you get to a point where you actually have to hold back and be like, nah, okay, I won't say that. I'll use a softer word here. So yeah,
you're becoming that Kentucky rebel again. It's just like a loop.
Yeah, it could be. It might end up that way. Journalism these days has a really bad rap for a few good reasons, I think. And sometimes I hesitate to call myself a journalist. I prefer to just be a writer, to just to explain or deliver information with as little bias as possible. But obviously, it's not possible to completely remove your bias when you present the news. At least in the U.S., news media in the past 2 or 3 years, I think has gotten to a pretty despicable place. So
coming from the other side, we need the clickbaits, we need the clicks, we need the views.
I mean, that's a whole other issue with the ad-driven internet. I mean, what's a newspaper without advertising? It's difficult to keep people informed without entertaining them these days. So it's the model naturally goes to infotainment, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see how we're going to get out of that anytime soon. So you might as well just go with the flow, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're covering everything. There was the basketball. We're getting new NBA players coming here to Taiwan, maybe. A new bridge in Kinmen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then you're also something covering the U.S. Congress talking about Taiwan. So it sounds like you're covering everything Taiwan related.
1/3 of my workload with Taiwan News is going out to do reporting, either interviews with either business leaders or maybe foreign representatives that come to Taiwan, doing write-ups on trade shows and stuff like that, and also looking at the local newspapers, and you see whatever their headlines are. They're like, okay, well, we know that our English-speaking readers will be interested in this topic, so we want to deliver that news to them as fast as we can.
My news flow, how I get my news, is that my dad in Sweden every morning will read Taiwan news.
Oh, he's a regular.
He's a daily. It's literally we have such an old computer. It takes 5 minutes to just boot up and log into the internet.
Yeah.
He will read through the news, and then depending on the headlines, maybe tell my mom about it, who then will text me, say are you okay? There's an earthquake again.
Yeah,
It's okay. So every morning when I wake up, I'm okay, yeah, this is what happens in Taiwan news, so I know how the whole circle goes.
So he's getting the headlines before you. Huh?
Yeah. Right. So for my family specifically, you're doing a great job, and I definitely want you to continue doing this. What is something that the average Taiwan news reader should know about Taiwan news or your personal life as a reporter?
Something that people might be interested to know, regular readers or people that have been in Taiwan a long time, they know that Taiwan News is actually owned by a food company, Imei Foods. Even though Taiwan News is not hugely profitable, Imei considers it more important for Taiwan to have a voice, in the world, and so that is Taiwan's ethos and motivation, I guess.
Read the news, you learn something new, even about the news in this case.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me here again.
I'm glad you could come. I'm happy to talk with you.
And of course, hopefully every international viewer on this channel is already aware of Taiwan news. But if not, you'll have all the links down in the description. And of course, you will also have all the other links, for example, the podcast from Duncan here as well. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Lukas. It starts with L as in ends with S as in subscribe. Please to both, and see you all in the next one.
See you.